As the clock strikes 7, the vibes alive. Inner circles here, where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come one, come all, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice.
All right, folks. AB.
Yeah.
All right. Man, I'll leave the comment section with you and the rest
Sure,
of the
sure.
people in the
Okay, yeah, no problem. Yeah, I got it.
so I don't be distracted.
Sure.
Good evening, folks, and good evening to our live viewers here. I want to say welcome to another section of our Tuesday broadcast or live podcast. Tonight, we're going to be discussing adequate parenting. It is a very, very important topic. For the first time, the stream looks different. We have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 females here, and we have 5 men as well. And as it looks, we anticipate a very balanced discussion. Adequate parenting is the topic tonight. So for you all that have tuned in and will be tuning in, we'd like to say welcome to you, and we hope that we can have this time with you. At some point, we will put up the number that you can also call and form part of this discussion. Call in and have your say. This is the community show, the real community show. This is the people's show. So this is why we were here, because of you. So ladies and gentlemen, we like to say good evening and welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll just jump right into things, right? Adequate parenting. As we hear that, I'll just start with anybody. Just jump in. What does that mean for you when you hear adequate parenting? What does that mean?
I know we were talking in the chat about Tyrese. I'm a Tyrese fan, so I'm gonna kind of give him some grace real quick. So he went to jail for, it wasn't a lack of not paying his child support. Apparently, he wasn't paying enough. So I just want us to put that out there, right? And when we're talking about adequate parenting, how much should one budget for a child? I mean, that is a really, really good, question to who decides how much you should utilize to take care of a child, right? When I think about some of the child support that people get, I'm like, honestly, I don't spend that much taking care of my child. And, some folks may know her. She's pretty spoiled. But I don't spend, 2, 3, 4. I mean, some people's child support money is a lot. But anyways, I don't spend that much money. So I think when you're thinking about adequate parenting, how much money is adequate to provide for a child's basic needs?
Right. So it sounds like you want to focus on the finance tonight, on the financial aspect of a child tonight.
That's important. Okay. That's important. And I will say statistically, communities of color, black communities, we do poor family planning, right? Especially, I would say specifically for the African American community, they have a belief system that abortion is not an option. So no matter how old you are or how young you are, how unprepared you may be for taking care of that child, there's no option. There's no thinking about it. You're most likely going to bring them into this world. And so I think it starts with the poor family planning we tend to culturally do or happen in our community sometimes.
I appreciate that.
If she want to go into the finance part, I think like there's no amount of money that is adequate to raise a child, especially like we're talking here about, the adequacy of it. Kids are very expensive, especially in this country. And I think the whole child support piece, where I don't know much about it, Tyrese, whatever he's going through, but kids are very expensive. And sometimes it's how you start the whole process. When you like Tyrese, right? It's like maybe when he had his son or kids, you know, hey, he was a wealthy musician. So you know what I mean and stuff. They're going to make sure that to provide adequacy for your kids, they're going to Georgia. I mean, they're going to take that, I mean, from that level, from your finances and things like that. But I think kids in this country, they're very, very expensive. To raise kids is very expensive if you wanted the best life for them. Okay,
Okay.
whether you're saying it's a public school, private school, however we are raising them, kids are very, very expensive. So
That's a
yeah, you know
yeah.
what I mean.
That's
So I just want to discount whether someone is getting 75,000 in child support or $10,000. Sometimes that money between, you know what I mean, to be honest, okay, it's like these kids can eat, man. You know what I mean, and stuff like that.
most
Is
definitely.
especially when they are in sports. You know, the ones that are in
Yeah.
sports all day they're gonna eat and eat and eat. And so hey, there's no amount of money that you can put on that, right? So I just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, Melvin, over to you. I'll go to my right and then continue going down. Melvin, over to you, and then next will be patience.
Good evening, everybody. As the topic kind of lay out there, the adequate parenting involves providing support and creating that that environment that will create the basic needs that a child can will need to grow. So key aspect of those, there are 5 things I'm going to name, and as we go our way, give you more detail. But one of them is love and support. What that means is showing love to the child, showing that support and need. And it involves the finances you guys just spoke of. Love involves just showing the children love. I know some of our African parents never one day, sometimes a lot of them when I say, I love you, my child, or the child will come out and be like, I love you, daddy. We don't have that, a lot of it in our African culture. So sometimes when you say it to your parents, it's kind of saying like, what is he saying? What is she saying? That's one aspect. Then the structure and boundaries, having clear rules and having no boundaries between your kids and you as a parent. And then I will speak of the communication piece, being clear, concise on what you want, communicating those things to the kids and being open, basically. Having that discussion with the child, not just saying this is what it is and I'm going to go with it. You have to create that environment so the child can be able to communicate with you as a parent, and that ensure them in the future to just be able to have that open communication with whoever they kind of grow up with. And the education and the growth piece, providing education for the children, and basically kind of looking at how well my child can grow by me providing those things I need to provide. Then the last piece I will kind of speak on is the health and safety, providing that piece. So the 5 components, I'm going to focus on those today. And for me, mainly is more of the positive piece I'm going to look into. So I will leave that for now.
Thank you, there, Melvin. Over to you, patience. What does adequate parenting look like for you?
Like Melvin said, for me, mostly it's being involved because most of the time we focus more on the financial aspect of parenting. You can be in your child life without being active. You both can live in the same house and yet you're still not as active as you need to be as a parent. The way in which the system is set up in America, people are working, parents work a lot. Like there are people who work 16 hours a day. If you're working 16 hours a day to provide financially for your kid, what time do you have to spend with that kid? Do you have time to have dinner with that kid? Do you have time to sit and do homework with your child? Do you have conversation? Do you ask that child what's going on in your life? Do you check their phone? Do you plan dates? Like, are you involved with the kid? Most of the time in the African community, we focus so much on the financial aspects of parenting. Like Melvin said, most of us, I'll speak for myself, I grew up in a home where I never once heard my parents say, I love you. Like their way of showing that they love me was to provide for me financially. But there's more to love than the financial aspect of it because I needed that one-on-one time. Kids need that one-on-one time. They need that attention. They need to know that you're there checking up on them. They need to have bedtime, mealtime, study time, and you need to be active. Active parent, for me, active parenting is the goal because regardless, you're going to provide for that kid. It is your sole duty to provide for that child.
Right.
Or are you invested into
don't empty all your bag right now. Don't you? I can see you have a lot in you. Hold on to the rest of it. I like your intro. Peterson, we'll go over to you.
All right. Good evening, everybody, and it's glad to be on here. Um, when we talk about adequate parenting, for me, it's like some of what everybody have already said is providing that security for your child. So making sure that the child or children, they're in a secure environment. And what that means is making sure that not only like physical safety, but to make sure that they're safe emotionally and mentally. So you need to have them in a space where nobody would take advantage of them. So you need to be able to step up and protect them and provide that security. And then
Absolutely.
also just making sure that you are involved, like everybody is saying, because you can be present but not active. And so that's what I consider adequate parenting.
Right. Thank you so much. I'm gonna move. I'm just gonna move way up here for a second. Uh, we'll go over to you, Eddie.
I think everybody pretty much said everything about that. It's just, providing the emotional safety, the emotional, mental, cognitive safety for your child, just structuring the environment so where your child is succeeding academically and, well-roundedly. So just protecting their well-being also. So everybody pretty much said the same thing.
Right, for sure. And when you think you want to chime in here, or you want to skip on this one?
Just everybody said it as you guys are going around. I think for me the word is sufficiency. Like, am I doing enough as a parent? Am I present enough as a parent? I think we always got to stop and ask ourselves, that's sufficient. Am I producing that for that kid at that time? But like you said, we'll hold the rest of it as we go around.
Yeah, I think you just brought up the next line of questioning, frankly. So that will be the next line of questioning. That's what I have here. So you just read my mind. Dream, you want to chime in this one, or you want us to go into the next one?
Definitely, I want to chime in.
Okay, go ahead.
I see adequate parenting as the level of care that is provided, care and guidance that is provided as a parent sufficiently for the child basic needs, being like everybody else is saying, physical needs, emotional needs. And I see it as going beyond just words or action of money, on the child finances, like everybody else is saying. So I'm going to be focusing on the child and the activeness of parenting your kid's life.
Okay, got it. Tatos, what say you?
Yeah, so I think we could skip, but I would just like to welcome all of the new faces. Patience Peterson, my sis Weldy. Thank you for being here. Miss B, welcome back.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing that. Because everybody really said it all. And so let's go.
Just a minute there, Chairman. Just for this, want to make sure we acknowledge the ladies here tonight. I think like smart ladies, they're making some great, hey man, is that you guys probably will give us a huge, huge audience here tonight. But so far,
the book that we need,
ladies here.
Yeah. No, for sure, absolutely. We gentlemen, when we started this thing, we're all men, and I told you guys we have to have a balance on here. And this platform is getting beautiful each day. But we won't dive into that. We'll take a long time tonight. So, Walker, I'd like to say shout out to you and thanks for acknowledging the ladies on here tonight. How can parents ensure that they are doing a good job?
You see it in the upbringing of the kid. People compliment your parenting every time your kids step out there, the way in which they carry themselves, and the development education-wise too, the way the kids speak, how they respond to emotions, and how well communicated they are too. Like, just have an open dialogue. If you're sitting and your kid come up to you and just start talking about their day and telling you exactly what's going on in their life. For me, that's how I look at it. I'm like, I am here. She knows that I'm here. So there's always room for you to come to me. You have a person in me. That's how I know I'm doing a great job as a parent.
Absolutely. Thank you. So let's just take 1 minute each, right? Not too long, just 1 minute each.
I just think for me, I think Patience said it too. I would say when that child feels safe around you, like they're safe to come to you with everything and anything. That's where in that moment as a parent. I mean, I'm not a biological parent. Yeah, I haven't given birth, right? But like my nieces and nephew, my god babies, like when they feel safe enough to talk to me about their emotions or everything, I feel like as a second caregiver or aunt or whatever, I'm contributing that lens of adequate parents that their parents are already establishing, and I'm adding to that.
Right. Ms. B, what's your thought?
Again, I just have to go back to the finances, because a lot of the things, in order to do them, the finances have to be there, right? To an extent where, are we talking about two-parent household where, you know, one person is not there working 16-hour shifts, you know, multiple days in the week, and then you're not able to be around, because the reality is you have to be active, you have to have time. You know, people talk to being active, and so being active means that your kids can come to you, and in order to be active you have to have time. What provides you the time is having the necessary, you know, job that allows you that time and that flexibility, having the necessary income. So that's why I go back to poor family planning. Like when we want to buy a home, we go to a realtor, we go through the process, we figure out what we're going to need for down payment. You know, a lot of things happen before we acquire expensive assets in this country, right? Or in life, period. But I don't think those same things happen when we're trying to acquire one of the most expensive things. And like Abraham said, rightfully so, our kids, bringing them into this world. And I feel like we need to, especially when it comes to us who are parents now, raising kids in this 2024, and who are going to be beneficiary of all the craziness that's happening now, we really need to start with that conversation. It's like, when is the right time to even be thinking about bringing a child into this world? And the reason why I'm talking about this is a part of my adequate parenting. I want you to be making good decisions from at an early age. And so it's having those conversations sooner rather than later.
So, Jeremy, on mute. But just to go further on that, though. So you want, you know, let me just add Ms. B something, right? So you want, I mean, for our African setting, like people, like folks before they have baby, they should is like plan for it and things like that. Is that what you're driving at?
I remember it was junior high. It was an Oprah episode. I was sleeping and my mom was like, just get home, because I think Oprah came on like 4 p.m. You know, you just got home and you're tired. Come and watch this episode. And it was about teenage pregnancy. So, you know, culturally, a lot of African households, they don't want to have those questions. I'm going to say I was blessed. I had two parents in the household, first of all, and I always had a parent home, no matter what. So one parent worked the night shift, one parent worked the day shift, and both parents were home. And so I know right there was like, they made good choices already when it came to parenting, right? And so because she was home with us my dad worked the night shift, and so my mom would come home about the time I came home, and so she would be watching Oprah, and she would tell me, get up and watch it. And I was like, why is she having this conversation? I'm not even interested in sex. But now I know why she was trying to have that conversation. Like, there are things you want to do first in life before you get to the process of having a child. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. Let's go over to Dream and then to Titus. No, sorry, Dream and then to Weddy. You know what? Never mind, because I mentioned since Weddy, I was on mute, but Weddy, let's go over to you, please.
He's on mute.
What was the question?
So how can parents know, or how can parents tell that they're doing a good job with parenting?
Well, you can tell based on how happy your kids are, the environment that you provide, the structure that you provide for them. One thing I always say, you know, my kids, when they go to school, my ultimate goal is that they go to school to learn. They are well-rounded individuals. They have strong social and emotional connection with friends and loved ones. And that, for me, that lets me know my kids are happy and I'm providing the right structure for my children.
Absolutely. Dream.
Yes, so I want to first of all address something that Patience said. She said you would see from the reflection of the child's behavior, which is true. But I believe that sometimes children grow up if the child wants to be a good child, they grow up to be a good child. I, for one, most of the time, my growing up, when I lost my guardian, which is my grandma, I basically raised myself and I turned out good, I would say. So sometimes the children can be in that environment, getting their source of happiness from somewhere else. So it's not, it shouldn't really be the center. It should go beyond that, like everybody else is saying, communication. So the reflection of the how open is your child with you? Is your child open enough to bring certain conversations to you as a parent? Is your child open enough to, have that openness with you as a parent? Are you guys having that communication? Are you providing their physical and emotional needs? Is it being shown, like everybody else is saying? So I feel like based on how open, what kind of relationship you and your child have, that's the kind of reflection of parenting I see that yields the good results.
Absolutely. Thank you. Titus, over to you.
So I think some signs of knowing if you're doing a good job as a parent, if your child is, showing some independence. A lot of us like to think that we're doing or solving all the problems for our kids, is making them a happy kid. But if that kid is not within the home and outside, how do you expect them to, navigate their territory or get along with their friends or their counterparts? So one of those signs will be how independent that child is. Is that child solving, his or her own problems, and not just running to you every time to solve that problem for him or her. Another thing I would say, how expressive is that child? As I think some of the speakers have already said, are they open to come and have a conversation with you, or are you just that type of parent who is raising a child that you just listen and obey? And actually that reflects, right, especially when we Africans come over here and we attend school here. A lot of also some of us struggle with being outspoken, right? To participate in classes. And that's because you have that issue from your childhood. Every time an African parent is disciplining a child, don't talk, even if they want to get that child's opinion.
But that's another section. We'll talk about parenting style. We'll go into that.
I want to jump my head. I want to
try in here. So it's just that being
Titus, yeah.
You consume the time already. Let's go to Peterson.
Yeah. So, like everybody has said, another way to tell that you are doing a good job is the emotional growth of your child and how it's displayed out there. So if you have, each child is different. You have some that are very like extrovert, and then there are some that they're quiet. They just keep everything to themselves. It doesn't matter how much you pry, they're not going to give you information. So you have to be involved and hands-on enough so that that child can feel comfortable with you, especially the ones that are quiet. Because if you are this authoritarian, like, oh, do as I say, and like Tata just said, be quiet when I speak to you and stuff like that, then they're going to be more afraid of you. So the way to show, or for it to show out there that you're actually doing a good job, and like somebody said earlier, other people would compliment that child and say, wow, this child is being brought up very well. They are well behaved and well trained, like, and things like that. But it's just, you have to be involved and have a line of communication so that if something is going on in your child's life, they can feel safe and comfortable enough to come to you.
Right. Yeah, thank you very much. So moving into parenting styles, right? There are pretty much four distinct parenting styles, and that is authoritative, authoritarian, permissive, and neglectful. So to all of you who are raising kids, or just generally, which style do you see as most effective?
I think you embody all of them at
Yep.
different times in certain situations, to be honest.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Excluding the neglection. I mean,
I'm
Yeah,
gonna say, Shonda Rhimes said it very well, right? So there are various parts of my life. If I'm 100%, if I'm doing well in one, I'm definitely failing in another aspect, and that's okay. And I think that's where it's not intentional neglect, but it happens, right? And I think I did some of that this summer. We had a jam-packed summer of activities and family and stuff like that, but it wasn't a time this summer where she and I just really went out and had mother and daughter time, even though it was a jam-packed summer of travel. My girlfriends and her kids came and they were in time for a week. Her cousins were here the whole summer. They're hopping from home to home. She was busy, right? And really active, but I feel I neglected her this summer, and I'm still trying to figure out time to do that. It's like, let's do a staycation, she and I, and really have that mommy and daughter time and check in, especially with the 10th grade year starting for her, right? And so it's not intentional neglect, but it happens. And
Right.
so that's why I'm saying that's an example of time. You're probably doing all of that at different times and stages.
Right. Go ahead.
I have to agree with that. I think when we think about neglect, it's easy to attach that you deliberately are leaving your child, but like Miss B saying, sorry, I had to zoom in because I'm legally blind. But like Miss B is saying, like sometimes you get so work up in life or, something, because as parents too, we have our own personal struggles we're internalizing as well. So that child might have come to you about something. You probably, okay, baby, I'll check it out in a little bit and never follow up with it. That's a little lens of neglect, but not directly being neglectful. Just like it slipped your mind, something else came up, X, Y, and Z, but remembering to go back with. So I agree with that piece that we touched all those aspects of it, those 4 styles, certain points in our lives.
Right. You know what? I'm actually 1 second here. I'm skipping with my co-host a lot tonight. Abby, I need you to come in.
I really.
Yeah. So right, like a couple of speakers mentioned like the environment, your environment plays. So me, like coming from Africa, grew up there. I mean, I moved here at the age of 15. I don't think the environment has nothing to do with your growth, okay. And then also it's like the neglect part. Some of us, right, is like my mom had like 12 kids. Yeah, man, my big brothers, it was my older brother that raised me. So here, sometimes you got to figure it out how you're gonna make things happen, right? It's like, so you might like fall and get up and things like that. You realize, hey, how can I get out of this environment, even as a young child? So I think sometimes raising kids, I mean, in this country, like Tyler's mentioned, it's different. I mean, there are a lot of challenges, but as a parent, you just have to do the best you can, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. I always say, it's like, I mean, back to the child support stuff that Ms. B talked about. If you bring a child into this world, hey man, do everything you can to be responsible, right? It's like you should do everything you can in your world. If you have to work 2-3 jobs to make that happen and being active, you should do that, because it's like you need to provide for your kids. And your experience also should guide that, like, hey, like a lot of the things my kids are enjoying, I never had that. But I want to make sure they have the best, take them on vacation and do those things. Do not neglect those things, right? Because they are very, very important.
But AB, if you say you do not agree with the environment having an impact on individuals, then you will be going against the scientific perspective of nature and nurture. Wina, what do you say? What do you think about that?
I agree, because
if you find yourself,
let Kalisa speak.
Okay.
No.
Sorry.
I just wanted to chime something. We are product of our environment. Our environment contributes a lot of aspects of it.
Yeah.
You just said a lot of the things my kids have, I never had. That right there told you your environment, you didn't have it. So you're trying to produce a different environment for them to have that.
Well, not because I'm producing a different environment, like
but your environment
it doesn't matter on the outcome, though. The outcome does not matter.
I think it does.
It does. It might be.
Abraham believes that it's nurture. All he needs to do is nurture his kids.
And that's the thing with a lot of Africans today. They're nurturing the kids, but they're not present. physically,
again,
emotionally parent and being
Most
present.
African,
Hold on, guys.
provide.
Hold on.
Not me mute
Ready.
talking.
I
Just
think
ready.
everyone's saying the right thing, but
hold on.
also we should remember.
Hold on, guys. Just ready. Go ahead.
No, we should also remember it's your mindset, your goal as a parent. What is your goal as a parent? And what is your mindset? What goals do you have for your children? Those things are what's going to drive the way that you parent, whether it be authoritarian, authoritative, permissive. There are some people who are just, that's who they are. And that's what I believe. That's what we're talking about when it comes to your parenting styles, because I've worked with so many parents and their parenting styles is how they grew up. Now, some of us, we try to change that because why we want our kids, like AB was saying, he probably grew up in a parenting style where it was neglectful, but he had to make his way through. And now he's saying, based on my goals that I have for my children, this is what I want for them to have. Creating that environment, whatever that may be for him, that's his goal for his parenting style. Whether I mean, now parenting styles are getting diverse. We don't have to force anymore. We have more parenting styles to add to it. So it depends on what your goal is.
I hear what you're saying. But to you again, I'll ask you this question though. Let's not dismiss what AB said, right? But let's really bring this into perspective. Do you believe that the environment a kid grows up in does not have any impact on that child's upbringing?
I don't agree to that. The environment has a lot.
Yeah.
That's the perspective. That's the theory. We are speaking to that AB dismiss.
But he's not I understand where he's coming from. He's dismissing it in a way, but actually he's saying
on a broader scale. You can't dismiss that theory.
He's not trying to.
He's dismissing it, but he's not dismissing it.
He
agrees that the environment plays a big role in your child's life. But he also saying is not so much of an issue because you can remove yourself out of that environment at some point.
Yeah, to my point right there, right?
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, no, and Pigeon Jay hit on the door, right? Like, hey, if you grow in Broken Park, like, I don't even want to.
Why you want to use Broken Park? So
let's
hear the man out. Let's hear the man
out. Yeah, I don't know about all that environment because I'm in the Chicago area, so. Yeah.
So here's the thing, right? I mean, here's the thing. Like a lot of folks grew up in West Point, right? That's I mean, let me just go to Liberia, West Point or Clara Town. Look, I mean, some of these kids that turned out to be great human beings, like ministers, or you know what I mean, and stuff like that, right? It's like so you might grow up in an environment, but sometimes it's you trying to take yourself out of that environment, no matter what your parents do or not, and stuff like that. So I don't think the environment. I'm not totally dismissing it, but hey, man, like it's just to me, right? It's not like a huge part of it. Personally,
so what's your parenting style? He never answered the question.
My parenting style.
He just laughed.
I would say, hey, like I basically want to like nurture my kids, you know what I mean, and stuff like that, and just be a great parent, right? It's like I don't know. I like to your point earlier, Miss B. Maybe that it could be at times neglect. It could be like everything. I don't know. I mean, I don't have like specific ones.
So what is your goal? Let's go. Oh man, I want to know like what's your goal for your children as a parent? What is your goal? That would determine your parenting style.
My goal, my goal for my kids, like I want my kids like to be. Okay, I'm in finance, right? I want them to be CFOs, CEOs. Okay, like hey, I want them to own banks.
You're authoritarian.
I want them to own. I want them to come return and be more than me. So it's like that's my goal for them. My goal for them is like my goal basically, right? I want them to be productive members of society. I don't want my kids to be liability on society. Actually, that's my overall goal. I don't want them to be a liability on society. I want them get them to a point where they can be contributor to this society or whatever society they find themselves in.
Absolutely. Thank you. If we get time to let you talk all night. Let's go to the platform.
So I have a question on the issue of neglect. What about parents that
Dream,
have their
Dream, is it okay if you just hold that and we go over the top just quickly?
I have held it. You jump over me
All
twice
right,
now.
no problem, no problem. You're a VIP member tonight, so go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
please go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
So on the issue of neglect, what about those parents that had their kids and due to some circumstances they had to travel, and then after some time they came back and try or came back into the child's life, and instead of getting to know the child, getting to understand and build that relationship, they come out as authoritative. How can we define those kind of parent, like how do we say their actions reflect on their children, on what negative impacts those things can have on their kids?
I don't think it's neglect parenting style. I think it's circumstantial. That is attachment style. So there are different 4 kinds of attachment styles. So that's just an attachment issue. It's not like a parenting style issue. So parenting style would have to do with how you connect with your child, how you relate to your child. So I think that would be an attachment issue versus a parenting style issue.
Okay. Thank you for addressing that. We have okay. If you want to have a follow-up question, go ahead. After that, I want us to address this not really a question, but this statement that is put up here. I think it's a good one. Let's address that. Go ahead with a follow-up question.
I want to back on what Dream was asking, right?
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know if it's an attachment. I think it's you had me in Liberia. You had to leave me there, whatever the situation was, right? And you bring me here now, and your parenting style is not providing for us to get close to each other, right? I don't think that's an attachment. That's like, you need to recognize that your parenting style that you have or have created, or I know it's a cultural shift and norm shift when you transition from Liberia to America, but you need to recognize your parenting style is causing a problem for us to be able to really grow that bond and grow that relationship, which ultimately can impact what's happening to me outside of the household.
Right, absolutely.
I think that was
also
that's where I was coming from. Yeah.
Here's what Chairman, if I can chime in here quick, right? I think
You're asking a question.
I will agree with Miss Weddy, right? I think it's about attachment, because here's the thing, right? Hey, let's assume like you're doing hide and seek, you have your child. You keep, and stuff like that, right? And you come in at a young age. That child is back there, right? It's like, you stay in high school, you go to high school, from there college and stuff like that, but the child is back there. It's like there's no attachment as a parent and things like that. There's no kind of I would say like there's no attachment. And then out of a sudden, right, hey, you never abandoned them, but you brought them over. But just done that relationship is not there. And then, like, especially coming from Africa, that orientation is different from the orientation like here, and you're not used to like, that kind of a relationship. And then like, there's a friction there. It's hard. And sometimes, it's like things might not go the way both parties expect. I don't think it has to do with any kind of a way of parenting. It's just like that attachment is not there. You guys are not used to each other. So there might be friction. And based on that friction, sometimes, right, things might happen.
Right.
And that's literally my life.
So,
like you just explained.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
you also have to leave room. You have to leave room too, because this person has lived their life for X amount of years without you, and now they're here. You have to leave room to grow, to create that connection.
Exactly.
You have to get to learn that person. That person has to get to learn you. And eventually, you both are going to come around and start to understand. But if you just bring he or she and be like, this is what it is, they'll try to resent you at some point because you haven't been involved. You don't know what they like, what they're into, all of those things. So for me, I believe it just takes time. Like, give it time. Just create a safe space. Let them know that I'm here. We're in this together. Come to me when you need me. Just come to me. I'm here. Just create that safe space so they can come to you instead of forcing the relationship. let the relationship grow naturally. That's my
I
take
agree
on it.
100% with patience on that.
Ditto,
That's
patient.
exactly
Ditto.
what I was going to say too.
Yeah.
You just took that
Also,
right out of my
let it just happen naturally and go slow with it. So, Tatos, I want you to address Mr. Walker's statement right here, and we'll all chime in into that too. But I want you to go first, and after you, I want Peterson to come in too.
Can you put that up?
Yeah, right here. It's there you go.
All different styles.
No, he's
You're
comparing
parenting one
and
way at
parenting
home, and
is
then
different.
the
Different
second
different
go to
styles of
school.
parenting in the home and at school. Yeah, I mean he's right, and I think to really address that, you as a parent have to have the safest way of raising a kid. So I think when going around, we're hearing that a lot of parents or African parents will probably use the authoritarian style of parenting. That is, commanding, giving commands, orders, and you obey, listen to me, and what have you. And as Patience just mentioned, with that unique example that Dream was asking about, if a child is separated for that amount of time and reconnect with you, how are you promoting that bond, that connection? You cannot parent any child if you don't connect first.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, what style are we doing?
Yeah.
The school is listening to the kids.
Mhm.
The school is asking questions. They're doing active listening at school.
Mm.
So if you're home and you're just giving orders and commanding, there is a conflict in parenting. Sooner or later, your child is going to start to feel more safe at school than at
Bingo.
home, and that becomes
And they're
a
spending more
problem.
time there too, more
Of
active
course,
time.
that
Absolutely.
becomes a problem. We're not spending over 8 hours at home because we're so busy trying to provide for these kids. They're spending
Right.
way more time. The school is raising them, and then there are other gadgets and online features that are raising them. So
Right.
it's very important as a parent to kind of provide that balance, active listening. Be involved, get connected, bond with that kid, and I think
Right.
you have a win there.
Do
Thank
not
you.
brush.
Over to you, Peterson. Peterson, over to you, and then Melvin.
Yeah, so to add on to what Tata was just saying, I mean, these kids they spend a whole lot of time at school, and I mean, out of the whole year, they get what 2 months, 2.5 months away from school. So as parents, we have to actually train them in. It's like what the Bible said: train your child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. So you have to give them that training at home so they can be grounded, and you have to give them a safe environment because like you said, when they go to school, not only at the schools listening to them, but they also bringing diverse points to the kids. So I've read somewhere that fathers, especially, on average, they only spend about 30 minutes per week with their child
Their kids.
in like one-on-one conversations, which is like mind-boggling. Like out of the whole week, I don't care if you work 16 hours, 18 hours a day, but they only spend 30 minutes per week with that child. So if you're not training your child, somebody sure will train that
Somebody
child
will,
for
yep.
you.
We
Somebody
gotta
sure
do
will.
better.
So yeah,
We gotta
and
do
they
better.
spend a lot of time at school, so we have to just show them the right way. You have to give them that foundation so that no matter what they're exposed to in school, they can still return to that foundation and say, "Oh, okay, well, even though the school is teaching me this, that I'm learning the truth at home."
I appreciate it, Peterson. Over to you, Melvin.
Thank you, guys. A lot of things we kind of covered up here. But as relates to the question our brother Walker asked here, Walker, shout out to you for being active here. I would say, as parents, yes, Walker is right with that question. Kids spend a lot of time in the school, like all of you guys said. But one of the things a parent can do to kind of understand what happened in the school and how you're raising them is, getting involved in the school as well, like, PTA and stuff like that, attending that, understand how the school function, get to know how your child is performing. And also, like you guys said, communication piece is very important. Listening to the child, creating that safe environment so you guys can talk about things, not just being authoritative, like we kind of talk about parenting style, but Also allowing that child to talk to you, mom or dad, here's what's going on, this is what I want to do, what do you think? Allow them to express themselves. In that sense, it creates that environment. They can open up to you, what happened in the school, who are they interacting with, things they are doing. You get involved, and that in turn will help you make better decisions, how to bond with them, how to relate to them, and how to help them kind of develop better. Like you guys said, in school is diverse. You will not say everything in the school will be better. They might be interacting with people who, kind of different from what you want to instill in them. So also kind of pay attention to those tricks as well. So key communication, being involved in the school as well as a parent.
So with that, let us just give our audience the opportunity, our guests the opportunity. Hey, there's a great discussion here. It's like on parenting, adequate parenting, active parenting. So hey, if you have questions tonight,
the number on here, 612-516-3349. So go ahead at any time, bring your call in, and we'll take it over from there. So Weldy, you wanted to say something? Go ahead.
Can I ask a question to Weldy since she's gonna go? Now that Walker brought that up.
Sure, go ahead.
Because the school also, I mean, there are other areas that can be conflicting. In our times now, school are kind of pushing towards the children about different styles of living as far as their sexuality. So, Weldy, how would parents, kind of try to strike that balance with kids? In my home, especially, it'll be traditional for my kids. A man, will be with a woman, a woman will be with a man. When they're going to school, they're pushing that different doctrine on there. So, on to you, how as parents, how can we try to strike that balance with them and keep them grounded?
Well, man, the other thing you want to pull in here.
No one bring
It's important. It's relevant.
It's all part of the parenting now.
No, it is. It is relevant to this discussion. But for the sake of time, we can't dive into that because I don't want us to dive into that and leave it halfway. It's not a thing where they can.
Well, they can take a jab at it at least.
So we can probably visit this as a whole topic.
Yeah.
The whole topic.
Kevin, the only thing I would like to say to that real quick, I would say, hey, maybe if you don't like the public school system, send it to a private school. But you have
It doesn't matter what school you send them to.
It does not matter nowadays. It does not matter.
Everywhere. Everywhere. I got a kid.
I feel differently. Those private school kids, man,
worse than the public school.
Yeah, even worse.
And private school is a whole nother topic too.
That's what I'm saying, because private school kids are privileged, spoiled.
I mean, well, maybe Weldy can just give me like 5 seconds response to that.
Okay, Titus, you have to create a culture in your home. Whatever that culture is, we're going to talk next week. This week, we're going to talk about the stages of parenting. So you got to create that culture in your home where you start training your children and instilling those doctrines. Those things don't just start when they are 12. It has to start when they're younger, and then you continue on that whatever culture it is, enforce that culture in your home. So that's what I would say start from. So that way, when they go to school, they know exactly what the culture is in the home. You have already laid it out for them. They don't have to be worried about what other people are saying. I know that for sure because my kids don't even bother with that kind of stuff. But I was going to say to the point that Mel makes that we have to reparent ourselves. A lot of us who have been back home and never had the kind of parenting structure, the school, to Mr. Walker's point, the school does offer parenting workshops. Unfortunately, the only time that we take advantage of these workshops is when we go to court and the judge order us to do parenting classes. But there are parenting workshops so that you learn child development, because that's what is struggling in the home, is that a lot of parents don't know what child development is. What are those things that we need to create a well-balanced children? And it comes from reparenting yourself, especially if you're from Africa, you have to parent yourself. And there are classes that I can help you do that.
Weldy, I don't want to agree totally that people don't understand these things. I think sometimes the lack of time to be able to apply these things.
But if you don't know, but Mr. Sam, remember, if you don't know what you need, you wouldn't make time for it. If you value something, you make time for it.
But you can even know what you need to do, but you don't have the time to apply.
That's the
Sam,
thing I call willing and able. Are you willing and are you able? Right? Two different things.
But some of the dynamics of homes and families, they don't allow for parents to be able to do these things. And like we said before, sometimes you are neglecting these kids, but it's not so intentional. Sometimes it's like you have to do certain things, right? Like a single mother who has to upkeep a home. Right?
I'm a single mother.
And I'm not saying that's the best way to go, but I'm trying to say that it is
I
not
disagree.
the whole reason
No,
for
Sam,
why
I
people are not
disagree. I
finding it.
disagree to that too.
Yeah,
As
you
a
got to
parent,
make time for what
it
you
is
value.
your job to
It is,
build your
yeah.
schedule around your kids'
Yes.
life. That is your sole responsibility.
No.
You-
Y'all understand what I'm saying, right? Let me be clear. Let me be clear. All right. I'm saying that parents sometimes do, like you said, the reason why it sounded like the only reason. But I'm saying to you that part of the reason too is that people understand these things, but they are not making time to apply them. It's not like they don't know, but they're not making time.
Why are they not making time? That's being selfish.
Man,
You
man,
brought
no,
another
no,
life.
no,
You brought a life into
relates-
this world.
that
And you need
relates-
a
And
job.
that can
That
also be
relates-
sung as
that
being
relates-
parenting.
Okay,
That
hold
relates-
on, guys.
So
Let's
I
go
know
with the
when we think about parenting, we're only thinking about the direct parents in the household. I want us to consider the village mentality. It takes a village to
Right.
raise
It
a
takes a
child.
village. Yep.
It takes a village, and you have to create that village around you, right? You got, as we talked a lot about safe space, providing the right environment. I think nowadays our generation, our age group, we don't think about that environment outside of the household and those four walls. I mean, some of the places you're dropping your kids off and to be babysat at.
Right.
Did you think about that environment when you made that decision and where they're gonna pick up Titus? You have these values you want only to remain, within your four walls, and you don't want to acknowledge the outside world. But then where are you dropping them off at? Who's babysitting them? Who's coming to your house for events? Like, who is your social capital? Those that is very important on how you raise your kids. Do you swear around your children and then take them places where they're hearing all kind of foul language all the time?
Denise, when you mention that village is not applicable to all culture.
Very important point, Danny.
It is. We may terminize it differently. We have the narrative differently, but it is happening. As I interact with white families, they do. It's their block. Like my daughter's Girl Scouts, right? And the team we bought, we engaging with for Girl Scout. I call them the Maple Grove moms. They all kind of stay in the Eagle Lake area. They know each other. They have created that social capital in that village to help raise each other's kids. If somebody's not comfortable if one kid is not comfortable telling their parent, they'll go tell that other kid's parent, and then that parent's going to come tell, like, well, Sarah came over our house, and this is the conversation she was having.
Yep.
So
and
everybody is
and aunts and uncles and all of those things too. I mean, like we were saying, it is your job to protect your kid in every way possible. Like
totally.
Where your child is at, who your child is around.
Yes.
I mean, how many hours is your child on the phone? What is your child doing on the phone?
Yeah.
I mean, all of those things you have to keep tag on these kids, because especially with social media, it's crazy. These kids are seeing things they're not supposed to be seeing, going on website they're not supposed. So you have to take that time, and that's what the whole finance thing. I think Ms. B said something about that. Once you start having kids, at least for me, once I started having kids, I told myself my life is based around my children. My job, I tell my job, I work Monday to Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. 4 p.m. I'm clocking out. My child is in daycare. I'm picking her up from daycare. I'm gonna go get her from school. We're getting home by 6:30. She's having dinner. She's showered. She's fed. She's doing homework. That's the choice. I chose to bring a life into this world. That is my sole responsibility.
Yes.
Regardless of what. If my mom is not available, I don't go anywhere. That's my safe space. That's who I leave my children with. The daycare. When my daughter was born, I went to 10 different daycare. I need that security. I need to know when I leave my child, he or she is safe. Wherever
That's
I take you, I will make sure within myself, my spirit, everything is calm. I know that you are safe. And God forbid, if anything happens, I mean, that's a whole nother story. But it is your job to
a whole
make.
other story that brings me to the consequences. I want us to focus a little bit on the consequences, right? I mean, not to cut you off, patient, but I really have to do that. Let's move on to discussing the consequences of field parenting. Out of respect for you, patient, I'll go back to you. Start with that. 1 minute.
Before, patient, sorry.
Patient, 1 minute. What are some of the consequences of field parenting? 1 minute.
Like kids getting shot. That's especially in like the African community in Brooklyn Park. These little boys are getting into gangs because their parents are not in the home. You go to work 16 hours a day. There's nobody home with your child. Your child is out there doing God knows what. They're involved with the wrong crowd. They're in the wrong place at the wrong time. That is still parenting. There is no way you can bring a life into this world and leave it and just focus on the financial part of it, because you can make all the money in the world. Your child's safety is what comes first.
I appreciate that. Abby, over to you. With your style of authoritative parenting, if you were to fail as a parent, what would the consequences look like?
Man, look, even like as I said, right? Your parents might fail because of sometimes like circumstances. But I don't think, like to patient's point, like I mean, some of those kids maybe they might end up into gun violence or get shot or things like that. I don't think so, man. I think it's like if you know that, first of all, if your parents, I said, okay, for me, right, I was born to like poor parents, right? It's like my dad, I don't know how many kids, my mom had 12. It's like sometimes, man, it's like we all have to survive, right? It's like everybody is like we have to make things happen, we have to make things work. So you have to put yourself in a situation, it's okay, even as young as you are, right? It's like, how do I mean, if I feel as a parent, for me personally, I don't know, but it just, I mean, back to that whole thing about you trying to just try to get out of your environment, trying to make it out of there. I mean, you see some of these NBA stars, right? It's like they were born into situations like very, very, very horrible, terrible situations, but they made it out of there. Sometimes it has to be either luck, blessing, and like just having that kind of a hostile mentality, man, hey, I need to get out of here. I don't need to do this and things like that. So I don't, even when the parents fail, because in Africa, right? Like, look, in Africa, right? Like, even the rich parents, the poor parents, they don't have time for you. But guess what? A lot of kids come up ready good, ready good, because there's no time. They don't have the time.
Right.
You gotta make time.
Over to you.
In Africa, the whole village is looking after you. Your mom, neighbor will grab you and whip your butt.
Goes back to that village that
that's
Ms. B talked
different.
about.
It's a village.
Where's
That's
the
where you
village?
create that village.
I think the consequences.
Go ahead.
Different environment.
Before we go further, I just want to ask this question in regards to adequate parenting. What is the right age for a parent, especially in the Western world, to give their kids phone, cell phone, mobile phone? What's the appropriate age for that?
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
I just want to know, to expose your child to the internet, because you're gonna say, well, I can keep an eye, install parent guide and stuff, but children, you're not gonna be keep looking at the phone all the time. So I just want to know, what's the right age?
If you're coming in to contribute to this answer, 30 seconds.
I think it depends on the maturity of the child. It can start, the health organization said 12 years old, but I think it depends on the maturity. I would start as early as elementary, but there are guidelines I'm putting in place before I give you that phone.
Appreciate that. Who else?
Yes, I agree with that. It depends on the maturity level of the child. And there are always safeguards and filters that you can put in place. So it's like what we're saying. If you are going to give your child a mobile phone, make sure you don't just buy it and say, "Oh, okay, here's your gift." You have to put things in place that will safeguard that child. So uh, they have different things out there that you can actually install on their phone that you can monitor. You can actually have it so that every website that you do not approve will be rejected. They will not be able to go on it and things like that.
I have my kids
So
sign
I'm
contracts.
I'm gonna say that my decision to give my daughter a phone in elementary had nothing to do with, it was solely based on I'm a paranoid parent and wanting to know where she's at. So we have an app and I know where she's at all times. I want to be able to communicate her. And we're dealing with school shootings and a lot of things I think are, kind of helping to influence that decision for parents, right? And we just have to weigh the consequences. Yes, they'll get the phone, they'll become more exposed to things, but for me, it has been, my sanity for her to have a phone and for me to know where she's at all times. So I'm a paranoid parent, and when it comes to parenting style, I am a parent, and that's not good because you can hover and be overbearing, and I'm working on that. But again, you like,
Right.
it's those are the things that influence some of my parenting too. The fact that I am that paranoid parent.
Denise, while you are there, you haven't spoken on the consequences. So just continue on that. Reflect on some of the consequences of field parenting.
And as a parent, prior to, I would be like, oh, your nurture, regardless of your nature, is the one that really determines the consequences or the outcome for you as a child being raised by your parents. But it's like now as a parent, I really feel like it's both, because I may explain that I come from a 2-parent household. Parents were always there, but my siblings and all turned out differently. And so it's like, what do you do when you have this built-in good situation, but then you have siblings that didn't graduate from high school or college, that are still don't have their life together, maybe dealing with alcohol and drug abuse. But, when I feel like, hey, I'm a product of the same household we all grew up in, and I turned out pretty good, but then they didn't. So, I think that's what Abraham was trying to say. It's like, at some point it is that child's decision, given the best environment, the best amount of nurturing, the best amount of attention, that they might just be influenced by other things to go the wrong direction in life. That's just a consequence I deal with as a parent, as I'm raising my child. I'm doing all these things, but I'm praying that she doesn't go the wrong direction, but it could happen.
Yes.
Right.
And that's out of their control, definitely.
Absolutely.
Those are things you don't have. Those are things you cannot control.
For sure. Who else wants to chime in on the consequences here?
I would say the consequences is loss of identity. You look in the schools right now, you see a lot of young people, especially in the high school, middle school area, they don't have an identity. It's like their soul just left their body, right?
Mm-hmm.
One of the major consequences of a failed parenting, because it's like, how did you not see that? How did you not correct that? How did you not provide the competence for your children for them to be, effective in, as they know themselves, So that's one, it's really the saddest thing to see. A lot of young kids nowadays, they just have loss of identity. They don't even know who they are.
I agree.
Absolutely, I agree.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to add another consequence there, Chairman.
Go ahead.
Low self-esteem. That stuff follows you. It follows you into your adulthood.
Yeah.
Right. So kids who do not learn responsibility, who do not learn how to, maybe work at a certain age, some kind of responsibility. They're not loved at home. You don't build their confidence. That's self-esteem. It starts from that childhood, and it really, essentially everything else that starts at childhood will follow you, through your adulthood. So I just need to point that out.
Here's one thing though about I think African parents, well, especially like a lot of them here, is like, hey, I don't want my child to work until even in college. I don't want my child to work. How's that being? Carlos, to your point, how's that being like responsible, right? Because hey, I have my godparents, like even his grandkids were now at the age of 15, 16. they are working McDonald's or wherever. But sometimes we African parents,
But,
oh no, I don't want my child to work.
but if
You know,
how
where's the
many
responsibility piece?
how many African parents you know doing this?
You got to teach that.
African parents I know.
African parents let their
work.
kids work.
So what kind of
A lot of them,
African
lot of them,
parents-
lot of
No,
them,
there's a
lot of-
lot. There's a
lot of
lot
them
of them.
don't-
I know.
A lot of them
that
don't let
don't-
their kids work.
Because they feel work is a distraction.
Exactly.
You know, they don't want them to be distracted from their schoolwork. They have extracurricular activities. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want them to start learning how to be carried away by money, you know, when they start making money and buying their own things. So there's a lot of that happening too as well. You know, he's right. But I think the working and going to school when you're young, like Titus is saying, you're instilling that, you know, that work, that responsibility in them, right? You know, I worked from high school, even college, winter break, I came home, I worked. It's just how do you navigate and guide that balance for your kids?
Thanks for sharing that experience.
So with
So
that,
who else having really contributed to the consequences?
Melvin.
Melvin and
Mel.
who else?
Yeah, yeah.
Melvin,
Mel and Win-Win.
Let me go.
So Dream go first. Sorry, Melvin, we gotta take the lady before.
Sorry, Melvin.
All right. Is that good?
So I would
Go
say
ahead.
behavioral problems. And some of these behavioral problems could be the child talking back, disregarding your parents' disciplines. Those are all consequences that I see.
Absolutely. Winner, after you, then Melvin.
I'll have to agree with Miss W. Weldy in regards to identity crisis and also character development.
Right. Melvin, over to you.
Yeah, I will add on to all of what you guys said. Poor decision making, right? They tend to make a lot of poor decisions financially, relationship wise. When they get to that adulthood, they don't manage themselves well. They make decisions that will impact them negatively a lot of the time. So family is important. It's a very smallest unit fabric in society, but it's also important when it's done correctly. The parenting we're speaking of, when it's done correctly, it tends to impact society in a way. So poor decision making from the kids that are not parent adequately, you see that align with them a lot of the time.
Right. So in closing, I will go over to each of you, right? Just come in. I don't have to call names. Just come in one at a time, right? Right. And when you're done, somebody else will come in. Leave something with our parents tonight, right? As a parent, if you're struggling, what can you do? How can you rebound? How can you rebound and try to be a better parent to your kids and show that they become successful? What would you say?
I would say,
go ahead.
I
was
would
just trying to
say,
get the question.
Doing all the same.
1, 2, 3, go. You ready?
Let the ladies go first.
Go ahead.
I would say get to know your. Get knowledge. Resources are out there. Go to the school. Talk to the schools. Just educate yourself. Find the time to do these things because your children need you, because you're going to need them one day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we win.
I agree. I think you should get, that education piece is important, and also meeting your child at their need, not your need as well.
Okay. P40.
Well, that's so powerful.
P40 patient.
Not real people. For me, I also take a break. Sometimes it gets really hectic and you are in a closed space. If you need a break, that's where Village come in. Pack them up, send them to their grandparents. Take a break, regroup, and find resources and get back to your healthy stuff. Because in order for you to pour into your kids, you need to be healthy and you need to be in the safe space and the right set of mind to be a great parent.
Okay, that makes a little bit better.
Do we know any resources that are out there for parents? Whether you mention one.
What do you mention one?
You want to repeat that one more time for our folks watching?
Yes, the school has tons of resources that can help you with parenting classes, because that's the first thing the school will reach out to parents to do is to, take parenting classes. All school districts have that, and you can ask your school district for further resources if you need them. And the
Absolutely.
county also has resources as well.
Thank you. Melvin, over to you.
I would say, as parent, you should be adaptable. Adaptability is key. Like we mentioned, migrating from Africa to America, you should have that adaptability. Culture I was kind of raising my kids in was a little different. Now I'm in a different environment, and I will have to kind of adjust a little bit so I can adjust to the environment. So, as parent, be able to be adaptable. Having that adaptability will help you navigate through the changes culture-wise and being able to help the kids develop well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Peterson, over to you.
Okay, yeah, I'll say be flexible and be willing to actually communicate. Not every time there's a opportunity to pick up double at work, you should accept it. Make time for your kids, and every little bit of time that you spend with them, it counts and it means a lot. So make time, and like we were saying earlier, it make time for things that you value. You will always find time, even if it's 30 minutes here, and just sit down and have a conversation with them. So try to get them close and make that time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wina, have you spoken yet?
Yeah, she did. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, you did. Dream.
I agree with what everybody is saying, but I'm gonna buttress that with saying parents should train and discipline their children with love. And what I mean by this is the Bible has something that says, do not spare the rod and spoil the child. And I'm not saying this with, the so I'm saying this with, don't get too much into the Western culture and forget your cultural values, especially us as immigrants and Africans. Do not forget to instill the cultural values of where you're from into your children. In as much as we're making time, communicating with your children, getting to know, readjusting and everything, parents, especially Africans, do not get too much into the Western and forget your cultural values for your kids.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Ms. Denise Butler.
I agree with a lot what was said. I think for me, in all honesty, it's been my village has helped me to raise my daughter, and that's been important, right? And so thank you to the village out there. I appreciate all of you, all her aunties, uncles. You guys I wouldn't have been able to do it without you. So first and foremost, that part. And then, like Patience says, you got to take care of self first. We're here talking about adequate parenting and we're focusing on the kids, but there are a lot of parents who are just exhausted. They're tired. And so you're no good to anybody if you're not taking care of yourself. So don't forget about taking care of yourself. You're allowed that.
Right. Absolutely. The Honorable Tatos Nikam.
I'll add to everybody and say be authentic. As a parent, model the discipline, the parenting style that you want for your child. So be that person so your children or child can aspire to become more than that person. Be present, be very effective. Balance it, man. It's not nobody has the manual for a perfect parent, Provide within your reach the atmosphere you could provide and let that child thrive. But it was a great discussion.
Right. Thank you very much, Titus. Over to you, AB.
Yeah, well, my parting message to parents out there and to all the great parents, let it be a two-way street, right? And remember, right, it's your legacy. These kids tomorrow, they might say, hey, Mrs. Yekeyu or whatever, or hey, Miss Kamara and things like that. Let them be your legacy. So do whatever you can for them. And, to the kids out there, right? Your parents are doing everything they can to provide you a good life. Try your best to also like help them in that regard, right? It's like make that job easier, okay, right? Don't just let them, do all the hard work, send you to great schools, do everything, it's like working doubles to provide you great life, taking you to your basketball game, to your soccer game, and you're still trying to be a bad kid. So let it be a two-way street relationship. be a great kid. And, just remember as a parent, it is your legacy. At the end of the day, when I chat to him, they're going to say, Jesus, look at me, come out your name.
After all that money he spent.
As I sit here and hear all of you guys saying these wonderful things, I'm thinking what it would sound like if you have the kids on here tonight, asking them what it will be, or what it will mean for them to, or what would define a good parent to be.
For them,
It'd be interesting to hear what they would say. But who will allow their kids to come? Is the question. But folks, I want to say, Wadi, go ahead.
I was saying I would let my kid come on here.
Yeah.
If you bring a kid, we can find other kids. This will be a great part too. Folks, we want to say thank you.
My daughter could come too. So.
Oh,
man. Absolutely. We can arrange this. This will be great. I can bring my daughter too. Folks, I think she would diss me a little bit about neglect. But shit. Anyway, folks, I want to say thank you for being here, folks. If you're watching us tonight, I want to say thank you for being with us. If you're watching us, if you're not following, I'd like to say please just hit that follow button so that you can be part of this community that we are bringing. I think we're bringing something and building something different here. And this is very intentional. We're very intentional, folks, and we'll continue to be here. Peterson, thank you again for joining us for the first time. And we look forward to always having you, Ms. B, Ms. Weddy, Titus, Dream, Patience, Melvin, my co-host, AB, and folks watching us would like to say good night from my end. I have nothing else to say. My folks have said it all. We're going to watch the presidential debates, and that is a very interesting one.
Fireworks tonight.
And Camilla, they're all right now. It's a little more interesting than what's going on here right now. But we'll see you guys on Thursday. Thursday we'll be here discussing another topic. So good night, folks. Fall back and backstage quickly for 2 minutes before you guys leave. Just backstage real quick. All right.
Bye, guys. Thank you all.